Here with us now is retired Marine Colonel William Burner Dunn, author of the book Gunfighters Rule, and Jamil Jaffer, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Institute for International Peace. Gentlemen, good morning. I know it is very early. I appreciate you waking up with me. Vice President J.D. Vance is leading today's negotiations with Iran. Jamil, I'll start with you. What messaging do you expect he will bring to the negotiating table? Because all eyes are on him right now.
Well, Hena, as you know, Vice President Vance has been a long opponent of this conflict. President Trump has alluded to that in many public statements. So he's going to look to try to get a deal done. It's obviously a deal the president wants as well, and a deal the Iranians are looking for. The question, though, Hena, is there any deal space here? The two parties appear to be very far apart on what can happen during the ceasefire in terms of Iran charging fees, who's controlling the strait, how many ships are going to get through. That doesn't bode well for the larger negotiations about how this conflict ends. Iran has claimed that they will have the right to nuclear enrichment. President Trump has repeatedly made clear they won't, as Vice President Vance did just yesterday as he boarded that plane on the way to Pakistan. So we'll see what happens next. But it's not clear right now, Hena, that there's deal space to be had between these two parties.
Colonel, the ceasefire is already fragile, and that's a nice way of putting it. What does Vance and the delegation need to do to get it back on track?
Well, good morning, and thanks so much for having me. The first thing is, Iran is not in a real space to negotiate, and I think they understand that. What I think we're going to see is a press to get the straits reopened. If that does not happen, I think we're going to see additional strikes taking place inside Iran. Hopefully it will be a limited strikes and then try to get them back to the negotiating table. I don't think we will get to a continued ceasefire out of the meeting today. I hope we will, but I think it's just unlikely based on some of Iran's demands that are unrealistic at this point.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Iran's demands. Iran has that 10-point plan. The U.S. has a 15-point plan. They are very far apart. Jamil, how do the two sides bridge this gap?
Well, it's hard to know. Now, what's interesting about Iran's 10-point plan, which is not a very good plan for the United States at all, is President Trump did say publicly that 10-point plan forms the basis for negotiations and can provide a good basis for negotiations. The problem, of course, Hena, as you know, is that 10-point plan doesn't talk about any of the things that matter to President Trump and Vice President Vance, namely no uranium enrichment in Iran, giving up of their current nuclear fuel supplies, giving up of their ability to build a weapon. None of that's there. Oh, never mind their support for terrorism in the region, Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Of course, today, Iran is saying part of the problem they have is with Israel attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon, which they think is part of the ceasefire. So these sides are very far apart. We'll see what happens in the next few days here in Pakistan.
Jamil, very briefly, before I move on to the Colonel, what role is Pakistan playing here?
Well, their goal is to try and play a middleman to try and get a deal done. They've been working with China as well, which has played a role to bring Iran to the table. That's obviously, again, not good for U.S. interest because China having a bigger role in the Middle East and its support for Iran is problematic.
Colonel, the major sticking points include Iran's nuclear enrichment program, as well as the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. Where, if anywhere, do you see an opportunity for compromises or concessions? Because like I said before, I mean, they are very far apart on what they want.
Well, I think there's no compromise on anything nuclear weapon, anything nuclear enrichment. There can be zero compromise. That was President Trump's reason for kicking off Epic Fury. So that to me is an absolute non-starter. If they can't agree with that, then this will fall apart immediately. The second thing, and I don't really care about the tolls that Iran wants to charge for the straits. However, the world does care. And I think that becomes a greater issue. Maybe it's not a concern of the United States. Maybe we don't care if they charge a toll, and we let the world figure that piece out. So maybe there's some leverage there. But that's going to be up to the delegation and President Trump. But like I say, I hope it works. I'm just concerned that, there's a lot of challenges sometimes when you translate U.S. words into Iranian words. And there's a lot of reasons. And I think there was a discussion that they don't even understand what we're saying. I've seen that working with folks in the Middle East. Sure. U.S. words don't always translate. And I think that's going to be a little bit of a stumbling block today.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to say things get lost in translation daily. So imagine something as high stakes as this. Colonel, while we're talking, the strikes continue. Israel is continuing its fight against Hezbollah in Lebanon. The IDF reporting new strikes just this morning by Hezbollah into Israel. How is this secondary conflict now complicating the U.S.-Iran ceasefire talks?
Well, unfortunately, Iran thinks it's part of the deal. We don't think it's part of the deal, and Israel doesn't think it's part of the deal. So once we get them to understand that the Lebanon missions that Israel is conducting have nothing to do with Epic Fury ceasefire, if they can understand that, I think that'll go a long way in at least getting to this discussion. Because as the Iranian delegation has mentioned, at least in the news, we don't know if they've really mentioned this, is that if this doesn't stop, the negotiations will not even continue. If that happens, I think we're going to see action pretty quickly. In our pilots that are sitting all over the Persian Gulf, Arabian Gulf, whichever you choose to call it today, are ready to strike. And, I hope it doesn't come to that, but hope is not a course of action. And I think we're going to see something turn today or tomorrow. Whether it's good or bad, we'll know very shortly.
Colonel, very, very quickly before I move on to Jamil, I am running out of time, but this is a fascinating and important conversation. Do you think Iran will let UN inspectors in to see the uranium or enrichment program, or do you think the Trump administration will be satisfied with just burying it and getting rid of it?
I think we have to possess it at some level. We, the United States. I don't think we cannot trust Iranians to let UN inspectors in, number one. They may say they will, but then they won't. Every country is going to work on their own behalf. So they're probably building plans right now to pull that uranium out or wherever it is. I think at some point we have to possess it. They have to turn it over.
Does that include U.S. boots on the ground, sir?
That's always a possibility. It's always possible. I don't want to see it. Iran is massive. It's 4 times the size of Iraq.
That's right.
It's a lot of distance to put logistics support for boots on the ground. Special ops is a different story. Maybe we can go in and grab it. But I think it's possible. If we can get Iran to fully understand their place right now, and that is give it up and then become a friend of the world. I think we can get there, but that's a tough next step.
Jamil, I'm running out of time, but I want to give you the last word.
Yeah, look, I think the colonel's exactly right. I think the parties are far apart. I think that the U.S. needs to get that nuclear material. There's no way we can allow Iran to have 440 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium just steps away from a nuclear weapon. It's completely unacceptable. President Trump, Vice President Vance need to insist on that. And they need to insist on Iran not supporting terrorist groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, and Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
All right. Retired Marine Corps Colonel William Dunn and Jamil Jaffer. Like I said, this is an important conversation with great context. Thank you, gentlemen. And again, thank you for waking up dark and early with us. I appreciate you.